Okay, so serious face, it's recorded now. Okay, so Jackie organised this meeting originally, but the purpose of the meeting is so we can have a sync up about the uploading of binary assets to the registry, to the package registry, which hasn't yet been built. So there's I guess there's three parts. There's three possible parts. There's the releaser needs to get the binary assets and upload them somewhere. The package registry, which I think are you working on? We're going to create a custom package registry, right, just for this function.
It will be rather generic one, and one of the usage can be for for releases.
Okay, and so we can upload any type of file to this package registry.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And it'll be using object storage in the back end?
Yes, if it's enabled. I'll just paste the issue in the chat here.
And then the third part is the Rails integration or middleware, I guess, so I guess the first question is.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, you go ahead.
I started a document. I don't know if you can see it up here. I need to share it.
Yeah, you need to. I just requested access.
Okay. Try this second link.
Still need access.
No? Okay. Yeah, okay. Share it after this with the rest of the team. You should have access now, both of you.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay. So yeah, we can put the issues in here when we identify them. But so I guess one part. So the way I was thinking this would work would be that Rails would kind of handle the assets, but maybe that's not such a good idea. So the original thought I had would be that the releaser would just send me. Well, where is the binary asset produced? Is it produced it's produced in the pipeline, right? So in fact, it's actually.
Yeah, so the idea is like in one of your previous steps before releasing, you generate some sort of binary or package or whatever it is. And by the time you hit release, those binaries or those assets are ready. Or I guess if the flow is you create the artifact, right? And that's going to be uploaded to the artifacts object search or whatever that is. And we need to either move that into this package registry or generic registry, and then associate that asset to the release. So those are the parts that are.
Yeah. So it does sound like it's a Rails job, right? Because so we need to keep the asset, and then we get I guess we would maybe get a command from the releaser saying to move this to the package registry, and then the Rails would move it. So the package registry will have its own API, Chris?
Yeah, it will have the API, and if you look at the issue I posted, it's very simple. So the goal is so that you can just see a URL and upload file, and you need to provide package name and version and the file name. You can see the format of the URL in the issue proposal. So for releases, we first need to upload the binary to the registry and then use it when creating the release. And this can be done as separate steps, or it can be done by the releaser. You give it a file, but you still need to provide all the details like file, package name, and version for that package. And then the releaser can upload the files and then use the the resulting links for the release assets or something like this. I'm not sure what will be the basic.
But even with, correct me if I'm wrong, Jaime, but even with releases, like the releaser itself, it's just running, the Docker container is just running the Go program, right? There's nothing else in there. And so the actual release binary is created inside the pipeline as an artifact. Is that correct? So it's in Rails, but it's in GitLab Rails.
Yeah, like to the release CLI, there's no concept of artifacts or anything, right? It's just the release CLI is super dumb in the sense that it's just gonna create a release.
Yeah,
and it's just
a CLI actually. Yeah,
it's a curl. It's a pretty curl. So yeah, so if there's already an API that we can call and we can use the job token for that, we can have the release CLI actually make the upload first. So for example, if we pass say you pass an asset link and you have an option to say upload binary, for example, the release CLI can identify that, upload this file first to the package registry. And then once that's uploaded, that's gonna give me a URL, the one that Chris mentioned. And then we can just associate or link that asset URL to the release.
But are you proposing that the releaser should move the asset, or so the releaser should make a call to move the asset from the artifact to the package registry and then update Rails, or request Rails to do it?
That's one option. It's one option, because the other option is if we have Rails do it, will Rails have access to the file itself, or would it have to go through the artifacts to get it and then just move it to the package registry?
I guess it would be going through the artifacts. The thing is, then we've got that file transfer happening on Rails, right?
Yeah, so it's either Rails or the release CLI doing this.
Yeah.
I kind of feel it shouldn't be Rails, because like it's kind of coupling, because people may or may not use the package registry for their assets, right? We just need to give them a way to do it easy if they want to, but it shouldn't be coupled like deep into the Rails code where it's using it. So
well, I guess I'm thinking from the perspective of, if it's a large file, and shouldn't that stuff just be happening outside of Rails, in the Docker container or whatever? But I guess how would the releaser authenticate against the package registry?
With the job token? With
the job token.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when you generate those binaries, they're in the container where the job is running, right?
Exactly.
They should be.
So you just need to upload them and then give the release API the links to those assets.
But it's running in a different container.
But that container should have access, the release CLI container. But you can still download the assets, right, into that container. Those artifacts.
So that would mean then we upload. Okay, so the job runs, creates artifacts, they get uploaded, and then the releaser would pull them down and then push them up again.
Yes.
It seems a bit inefficient, but I don't know how else we could do it.
I don't think there's other way to do it unless you move it to the package registry when you create the artifact in whatever.
Yeah, that could be a version 2 actually, where we would directly.
Well, yeah, I think it makes more sense for people to upload them to the registry in the job where they're generated, right? And then just use those URLs for the release API.
So if we did that, then they wouldn't be available inside the the job anymore, right? Into the pipeline, or but I guess that doesn't matter.
Yeah, we would need to find a way to expose that URL to the release job, so that the release CLI can grab it. Right?
I mean, when we originally talked about, you know, the release, the whole thing was going to be a Rails job, and then we decided to make it, you know, this external program. And so if we start mixing, I think the releaser should be responsible for everything, because otherwise we're mixing the logic then between Rails and the releaser, right, of moving the assets. Do you agree, Harvey, or you think it doesn't matter?
It's complicated, because it can be that we keep it simple with the release CLI and say you're just going to call an API and you don't care about where the files are. All we need to do is basically mirror what the API requires, so that we can create the release. That's one option. But then we're moving the responsibility to move the artifacts into the registry to some other place in the pipeline.
Oh, but in fact, I mean, we could even take it one step further, right? Like when the pipeline runs, if it, you know, it can look for the, so that's what I'm saying by moving the logic, right? It can look for the release node and it work out, okay, this file needs to go to the package registry instead of being uploaded as an artifact. But then we're moving all the logic into the pipeline, which is, it's more efficient, right? Because we're not creating an asset, uploading it, and then downloading it and uploading it again. But what we are doing is then we're moving that control out. You know, that control is not in the releaser anymore. But I don't know if that matters. Well, also, I guess I think that it's more efficient that way. But yeah, we lost the release is not fully in charge of the release node anymore.
Well, it's hard to be in charge if it doesn't even have access to the binaries, right?
But it can get access through the API, right?
Not necessarily. You can just use the artifacts.
Yeah, exactly.
Assuming the binaries are generated by it and published to the artifact.
Yeah. So that's fine. I guess what I'm saying is that's on one side, you know, then the release is doing everything. But that means that the binary is created, uploaded, which is, you know, maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing, because then you can still see it in the pipeline as an artifact. But then it's copied by the releaser and uploaded again to the registry, versus the alternative would be to modify the pipeline so that it doesn't upload it as an artifact, or maybe does a link or something, and then uploads it directly to the registry. And so then the releaser there'd be no work from the releaser side, right?
No, because all you have to do is pass the URL that you require. That should be defined in the release job, right?
Yeah. What do you think, guys?
So we have a job that generates something, and it ends up as an artifact somewhere, stored as an artifact. And then I wonder why we have the package registry then, because the other option could be to just use those artifacts somehow and create I don't know.
Well, I think there was some issue that Vlad was working on about non-expiring artifacts, but I think the artifacts are not intended to be there forever, whereas package registry is, you know.
Because the other option that I had in mind, like the simple workflow, is you generate some binaries, you upload them somewhere, and then you have some URLs for those binaries, and then you use those URLs to create the release. That's how it works now. Just that some people doesn't have where to upload them, And my impression was that's why we are working on that generic package registry so that you can just push and pull files from there and use it for, let's say, releases, but people can use it for other stuff also. And
yeah, that's kind of the same. That's kind of saying the same thing, because so the job that generates the binary is in a different container than the releaser, and a different stage in the pipeline.
Yeah.
And so it's got to put those somewhere. And so currently it would just make them an artifact, unless we tell it to directly upload to the registry. But then what we're doing is we're moving that logic. The releaser has nothing to do anymore in this area.
Well, but I feel like that's better because we keep it simple and it's just like API client for the releases API, right? What is it at the moment?
Yeah, we already support that.
So
passing a URL and everything.
How can you pass the URLs from the first job to the release job? Do you need to use like dot environment or something like this?
Yeah. And I don't know if we can expose the URL of the artifact somehow, or if we can grab it with the predefined environment variables or something like that.
They should be already exposed, right? There must be an endpoint for those.
But if you're using the package registry to store them, you don't even need to make them artifacts, right? Because they can be generated, uploaded to the package registry by the job, and then they're gone, but from the container, but you still have them in the package registry. And as long as you can pass the URLs to the release job, it will use them to create release assets.
Yep.
That's the simplest solution. I guess it's just finding a way to expose those URLs to the release job.
Well, that should be with the Jira environment. Like, lucky we have this at the moment, right? Because otherwise you need to create artifacts and store like the URLs there and then parse that file in the next job. And
because that's the current state, right? Like if you create something in a job, it's going to get created as an artifact, right?
You need to declare it as artifact, right? Because not everything created.
Okay.
Right? You have like that artifact keyword in the YAML that says what should, from everything that job creates, what we're gonna keep as artifact and use later. And if you already push it to the registry, you don't need to create an artifact. You still can if you want to. It's up to the users basically, right?
Yeah, so okay. So in that case, that's I guess the first option where the pipeline just pushes it directly. Pipeline sees in the YAML, this is going to package registry. Well, it sees release asset, and when it sees release asset, it just pushes it to the package registry.
Well, I didn't imagine it that much automated. You just need to have the script of the job itself pushes to the package registry. Like at least in my mind, it was way more manual. Like you have a job and it's doing some work. Let's say have a script that's doing make, and you end up with some binary, and then you upload that binary to the package registry. And now you know the URL, and then that URL you use on the next job to create a release asset. And the upload itself could be just URL and the binary to that URL of the package registry, as long as it has URL, because not every image has this URL, but I mean, like it's quite manual work here, but it's simple, so that should work for every case.
Yeah. I mean, I think it doesn't matter that it's manual for the time being, and then we can iterate on it, later. If we can just get everything working.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but my impression is the current problem is that we have the release CLI, but people don't have just GitLab at their disposal. They don't have any other servers or S3 or whatever storage. They basically don't have where to put the binaries that needs to be used in the release job. And that's why we're going with the generic package registry, which can be used for this, but it can also be used for any other things. Like someone just the other day said that for one of the Linux distros, Arch Linux, the packages are just zip files that have URL, so it will immediately be useful for that too, or for whatever people want to store with some versions. But that's not ideal, and it will be like a lot of work left to the user and their job, but at least it will work, and we are not making many assumptions or coupling a lot of stuff inside.
So I'm just writing this on the document. So this is option one, right? So we add script in YAML to create binary and upload, right? And then the releaser, what does the releaser do? The releaser associates it with the release.
Yep.
Yeah, it just needs to know the URLs. So we need to pass the URL somehow from the first job to the second.
Okay. And how would we do that? Because they're quite independent, right? The containers.
The easiest way is through the environment variables.
Okay.
So either as a predefined, well, no, it couldn't be a predefined environment variable. Or using, so that's a bit hacky, right? Like you need to expose some variable somehow and then pass it to the release. And we're using that .env syntax right now.
You can use this in the release job, right? Or...
Not inside the same job. That's because of another issue with the runner. So.
Well, you can use the .env to pass stuff between jobs.
Between jobs, yes.
So if I quickly capture that in the document, I think option 2 we're not going to go for, but I'll just put it there just in case.
Yeah.
So the question is, this passing of the URL, or the URLs, I guess it is, right?
I think we can quickly create a demo for the first option. Just that because the package registry is not ready yet, we can like pretend that we are uploading something, but actually use some hard-coded URL, and it's basically pass that URL to the release job, and release job use it to create a release and with asset link.
Yeah.
How would you handle like?
Yeah.
No, sorry. How would you handle like? Sometimes you generate 4 or 5 binaries for different distributions or whatever it is. And that's the idea, right? Like say I generate for Linux, for Windows, and for Mac, and then I just pass all the artifacts as a folder directory and say, hey, binaries. How can we put that into that?
Well, could the URL just basically be, like we know the file names of the individual components, and then we can just get back a URL and then attach the file name to the end of the URL or something like that.
So it would be like a base URL,
yeah,
kind of thing.
The file
and then
name
attach the file name.
The file name is already at the end of the URL of the package registry URL.
But so say there's 10 binaries, right, for different targets, different OSs or whatever. Yeah, the URL is going to be different for each one of those, right?
Yeah. Well, the URL basically is the format is like packages, projects, project ID, then packages, generic, the package name, version, and at the end is the file name.
So it doesn't have some random component in a URL. Right?
Well, it has like package name, package version, and file name, and those are up to the user, so they kind of random, but also restricted because I'm trying to keep it simple and also avoid security issues and stuff like this.
The releaser would be able to generate the proper name from environment variables.
Well, it depends what we give the releaser. Because what does the API need, Jaime, for asset links? Can you remind me? There were a bunch of
required is name and URL, and then you can optionally pass the type and the file
direct
like the alias that you said.
And the releaser currently supports these, or at least will support them.
It does, right? Yeah. So I think if we say we generate the binaries in a previous job, we pass them as artifacts, then the release CLI already has access to those artifacts and say, I'm just gonna iterate over this directory or this file and upload them.
Okay, that's the other option. It needs to download them and then upload them.
Yeah.
Which is like,
I mean, it can be the MVC, right? Like it's or say, let's go this way, and then if we need to actually optimize this.
I'll say the MVC is more if you just upload them from the first job and pass the URLs and everything else to the releaser to use it, which I'm not exactly sure how we're gonna do, but I can try to build something quickly as a proof of concept tomorrow morning. Because still, if you told the releaser, hey, these are the artifacts, download, upload them, you still need to tell it the other components like name, type, direct link, if you have.
Yeah,
it's not just about the binary, like those.
They still need to be. So that's the thing. They still need to be defined in the release job, right? So the release job looks like this. The YAML. Take a name, take a description. Then if you have assets like this, and then this is an array, it has to be a name, a URL, and then optionally have it's called a link type and a file path. So the file path is just the alias kind of thing.
So if you work with artifacts, where you're getting all these from? You still don't have them, right?
But is there an endpoint to download artifacts?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it must
but
be.
Let's say there is one, but it still will just give you the file and not of any of the other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, the artifacts API would just give you the zip.
You'd have to somehow, you'd have to somehow couple the artifact name. What's the artifacts API look like?
Well, I guess we could do some two proof of concepts, I guess. One would be from the Rails side, passing the URL to the release CLI somehow, which is option 1. And option 2 would be like try maybe from the release CLI side, download the artifacts. Well, the artifacts will be there, right? Because they will be downloaded by the runner anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as the release CLI can tell which directory the artifacts are, then it can just try to iterate. And if there's 10 or 5 files or whatever, we kind of just create this, upload all the files, have a URL for them, and then just use the name as the file name that we found for it.
Looking at the artifacts API, I'm not sure how if we have multiple, we have multiple binaries, how we connect them to, like it just seems to download a zip, right?
Yeah. But we don't need to download them manually, right? That they will be there in the job.
Yeah, if you declare them as like dependencies, the runner will do this for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, they never really need to be uploaded as artifacts, right?
Well, they need to, because in the previous job, those artifacts they're not committed to the repository usually. So you generate something and then you push them to the artifacts, and then on the next job, you will clone the repository and then download those artifacts. And they will put them exactly in the folder or that directory that they were taken from in the previous job.
So is this option 2? We're on option 2 now.
Option 2 would be to just iterate over those files and then upload to the package. And then once we have uploaded, we have the name, we have the URL, and that's the minimum thing we need to create that. But then they will kind of be hidden from the user in a sense. This would mean like the release CLI or the release job itself is kind of trying to find those artifacts in a smart way to upload them and link them to that release.
I mean, it kind of makes sense because then the release is in control, right, of the process.
Mm. Okay, so maybe we can either divide into 2 POCs or just go with option 1, which is the simplest. I don't know.
Well, the option 1 is the simplest, and it's just missing the package registry. But to prove that it's working and to demonstrate it's working, we don't even need the package registry. We can just pretend and upload those files like upfront, just for the sake of the example, and see how it looks like. And the option 2, I still don't get how you're gonna find all the other, how you're gonna get all the other params you need for the asset. Like you have the files and you can upload them and this will give you URL, but what about the name, link type, file path?
So link type and file path are optional, right? So you don't need those. Name you can just use.
What if people want to use them? And the name, you can parse the URL and find the name, I guess.
You can just use the file name, right, before you upload them.
Well, if you can use the file name as the way to connect the 2, right? I mean, you've got the file name, and then inside the release YAML, you can have name, and then you can connect from the asset itself via the file name, assuming the file name's unique.
So let's say we have the package registry completed. What's the work that's required for option 2? It's adding support for all these to the release, right? Uploading to the registry and then using the information when creating the release. Well, now thinking of it, there's nothing that stops us to do option one because we already have it. As long I'm gonna finish that package registry anyway because people want it for other stuff too. And as long as you can use it and there is a way to pass some stuff between jobs using dot environment, people always can decide to use that way if they want to. And this one we can have relatively soon as an option to people that don't have other options at the moment. And meanwhile, we can work on the proof of concept for option 2 and decide should we go ahead with it or not. And even if we have option 2, people still can choose to do option 1 if they want, right? They can even do option 1 right now, just that they need to upload to somewhere else. If you have S3 bucket, you can write to, you can use that and then pass those URLs to the releaser. And so I can look at creating simple proof of concept for option 1 with more than one file, because that's the tricky part, and see how it's going to work. And like I said, once we have the registry, people can always use it because there is nothing else we need. Like basically everything else is already implemented. And meanwhile, we can look at option 2 or some other option that is kind of more automated and like more, I don't know, coupled.
In option 1, we're still doing this pass URLs of assets via n variables, right? Or pass. We're gonna basically use the different variables to generate the URL again, right?
Yeah, but that's already implemented. So we're just gonna use something that already is available in CI.
Like the releaser will essentially calculate the URL, right?
Well, it's not gonna be the releaser, but the job. You can have a script.
The job needs to.
Yeah, but the releaser needs to then generate it again, right? Like what's the the example of the URL, right, was package name, version, target OS file, right? Something like that.
I'm just looking at the example for releases, the complete example for release that's using the dot environment. I think I think you wrote that.
Yep.
And it's basically just adding some more some more variables in that dot environment file, and then using them in the second job.
Okay.
And uploading those binaries. So I can start from this example and just. It will be probably easier to explain what I have in mind if it's not clear by now.
Okay, yeah, I think proof of concept's the way to go.
And this is option 2. And what do we have any other option, like all the magic happening at the Rails side?
That would be option 3.
Yeah, that would be option 3. Yeah.
But we still need to tell the Rails app what artifacts to use.
Well, that would be in the release YAML, right?
Well, then it has to be passed to the Rails app, like means some addition to the API or something.
No, when the Rails, when the pipeline runs, it looks for the release node and then, looks for the assets under the release node and then treats those files differently. It uploads into the registry. The part that's disconnected is how does it tell the releaser to create the links.
Well, if Rails uploads those files, or it would know the URL, right? And that would also be kind of hidden from from the user, I guess.
No, my idea was to work with artifacts so that they are already uploaded and Rails doesn't need to upload anything. But
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking for option 1, if you have a private project, but you need to have public binaries for the release, how exactly is this going to work?
Well, when we create the links in the registry, can we mark them as being public?
Well, I'm keeping it simple now, and they just inherit whatever the project is.
Right.
Well, I didn't even started working on the download because still dealing with the upload, but so you can always use a different project and upload from one project to the other. I should check, is the deploy token, the job token gonna allow you to do this? And then use, yeah.
So it seems like we have too many unknowns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think probably the best way to move on is to just have those couple of POCs.
Yep.
Yeah.
See how far we can get.
I agree. So I'm gonna take over the option 1 because that's what I had in mind, and it's related to the registry, and try to build some example. And if any of you can look at what's required for, I don't know, option 2 maybe, because option 3 sounds like more complicated, and I don't even know where to start for it. So,
why don't we scrap option 3?
Yep.
Yeah, I was just trying to list all options, but yeah, maybe for now.
Yep. Cool. So yeah, let's go with this. I create the issue for a tech evaluation thing for option 2. Yeah, we'll probably get through the scheduling process and things.
And so let's link this document to the meeting.
I'll share it with everyone. I don't know if I can just share it with everyone instead.
Yeah, I think it's okay. You can share with anyone who's got the link.
I tried that first, but it didn't work. Restricted here. GitLab. Anyone at GitLab should have access to this. Okay.
Okay, I'll put the link in the document. I hope that works. Yeah. Oh, hang on, that's the wrong link.
I attached it as
Sorry, it's attached the wrong link.
I attached it to the calendar invite. You should be able to see it. If not, I'll just paste it in the in Slack.
Okay, I'll stop the recording. And yeah, recording.